selection process proper. So in section 3.3.1, evaluating site suitability. So selecting the most suitable site available for a development or redevelopment project has potential benefits that include the following. So when you're thinking or like analyzing your site, you need to ask yourself, like, does this site improve the function of my building? Like once you have a building type, you determine what's inside, what problem you're trying to solve. Does the site improve how your building functions, or does it hamper or like make your building function less efficiently? And then if you have the proper site, it should provide greater convenience for the site's user. So think about in your office building, who are the building users? So you have the employees, the managers, the janitorial staff are also users because they use the building. Their job is to clean up the building. You have the restaurant, you have the employees, the waiters, the cooks, the chefs, and also the guests. And also the same goes for the retail. You have the employees and the guests who buy the stuff from the retail. Does your site provide convenience for your building users? And then a third option here, which we don't really like talk about, which is weird because we're in an architecture class. Does your site like enhance the aesthetics of the area? I don't think any of you talked about how a five-story building could enhance the sort of the visual quality of the area. Most of you were talking about like sun and wind, noise, traffic, parking. So this is something that I'm hoping that you'll address in your presentation next week. Like, will a five-star office building improve the visual quality of that site? Or like, is the site, what do you call this? Is the site enhancing the aesthetics of your building? Or does it make your building look bad or something like that? So fewer negative environmental impacts. So the benefit of like constructing a office building in a business district is because the utilities are already laid in. The road right of way is there, the electrical poles are there. And then even though it's a vacant lot, most of the time in business districts, it's already cleared. There's no like old trees there, although there may be some trees, but they're not that old. You can still relocate them. If you build in like more rural areas, so there might be issues with like how much vegetation there is in that area. And then if the access is limited, meaning there's no road right of way, you need to add additional sort of funds to create new water supply, sewage lines, and power lines, and telecommunication lines. So building in the proper site will have fewer negative environmental impacts. Finally, reduce construction and maintenance, operation and maintenance costs. So for example, if you go to IT Park here, I just want to like show a new image because like it might be boring if you're just looking at text. Okay, so let's look at IT Park. So why would it be beneficial? I think all of you can name several things about having an office building IT Park, but I don't think a lot of you mentioned how locating in this area would reduce construction, operation, and maintenance costs. Okay, so the benefit of these kinds of areas is that these are kind of privately developed, and they would usually have kind of instructions or what they call this, procedures, manuals in place that would help builders, contractors, engineers figure out like where to put the materials for the building, how to sort of manage the construction site. For these kinds of areas, there's already like a manual or like what we call development controls that would aid the contractors and builders so that they can get their materials on site, so that they can like build more efficiently. Usually in like more rural areas, for example, are the ones that are not located in a central business district. So maybe, let's say something like this. If you have a vacant plot of land, that's like, let's say where all these trees are, there's not much space for you to locate your kind of where you put your materials, your stock rooms, where to house your workers. So in IT Park, that's all, sorry, that's all taken care of. So in this area, for example, in the site of our commercial building in our design class, like they could easily, because they have proper sidewalks, maybe temporarily close down one side of the sidewalk for like storage or whatever. I think most of the time they even just have, they don't even need to do that because the site is large enough and they have like wide enough road, so the Delivery trucks won't block traffic, etc., etc. So if a site is properly selected, you can reduce your construction, operation, and maintenance costs. Okay. Another sort of issue highlighted here is pre-planning. So we already clarified the objectives and requirements for the building. We've studied thoroughly the building code requirements for an office building. We know the building height limit for a sort of 5-story building would be somewhere between 15 to 18 meters. Site selection criteria is something that we have yet to determine. So we'll determine that now. So clarify project objectives and requirements. We already did that. And then now we're going to look at the site selection criteria. So they have what they call this. They have a few factors here. So what they call site factors, I would call kind of physical factors. So these are the size of the lot, the availability of like utilities, road right of way. So if it's close to a road right of way, it's very likely that it has access to what they call this, sewage, water supply, telecommunications, and power. Physical constraints. So is the site too small, too big? Like it's also size. Is it like sloping? Is there issues like, for example, maybe the middle of your site is prone to flooding, or it's like a catch basin for rain, so something like that. And land use regulations. And then over here, the contextual factors. I think I would put land use regulations in the socioeconomic. Basically, I would think of contextual factors as the socioeconomic factors. So market or service area, like where is the target market for your building? So in the office building, you're thinking about employees. Where do employees come from? Like for example, a call center agency. So what kind of people are you looking for? Like maybe definitely in the Philippines, they're always looking for college graduates. Probably a degree in communications, where you need managers with a like business degree, probably senior level staff. So that's like people in their 40s or like late 30s, something like that. So where do these kinds of people live? Like for example, let's take a look at IT Park again. So in your design, you'll be looking for like people to run your restaurant, people to run your offices or buy your offices. So where will these people come from? So think about the employees. What kind of housing would they live in? So for me, a quick way to do it just by looking at Google Maps, you think of what kind of people are living in these houses next to IT Park. So maybe definitely the younger people, maybe you have some older people here. But most likely in these types of developments, I would see a lot more people in their like teenage years or like early 20s. So some of them might definitely be students. Some of them might not be students. So these would be ideal population for like the low sort of the entry-level jobs. So like janitorial services. Maybe if some college graduate is living here, they can also be the call center agent, because these settlements, informal settlements, don't really happen randomly. They usually settle where they can find jobs. So that's why they're here in the city, to find jobs. So more likely, you have entry level, people in their like 20s or mid 20s, something like that. So this is a very good indicator that you will get your office workers from here. Now, I think surrounding the in the nearby areas, you're going to see higher quality houses. So if you see houses like this, so you can think of someone, a father or like a young family, people in their like late 20s, middle 30s. So these are the kinds of like managers. So maybe like mid-tier managers come from here. So if you look at that distance, so that's about 500 meters away from the site. And then where will the managers, like the senior managers, be coming from? So these are people in their 50s, 40s, 50s, who have like a lot of experience in offices. So they will probably be living in like better quality housing. So if you look at the housing here, like in Anisha, or maybe even, where's Beverly Hills? I showed Beverly Hills in the morning class. So Beverly Hills is a subdivision in Cebu. It's a more high-end subdivision. Here we go, and we just get the distance from there to IT Park. IT Park. That's about 3 kilometers away. There we go, by car. So by car, it's about an 11-minute drive. If you walk all the way, that's only 39 minutes. You can actually walk from the gate of Beverly Hills all the way to the site in IT Park. If you use transit, that's also 35 minutes. So transit isn't so good. Like there's no jeeps in this area. You literally have to walk from this Doña Modesta Gaisano Street. Basically, there are no jeepneys going to this area, and the jeepneys are here in like Sudlon Street or Gordo Avenue. So you see, Google is telling me to walk about 23 minutes, get to a jeep, which is about like another 10 minutes, and then walk inside to get to the site in IT Park. So for managers, they usually wouldn't be using public transportation. They'll be driving. So a 10-minute drive, very comfortable for someone in their like 40s or 50s. So this would be your demographic for like senior managers. So all your sort of employees, managers, building users, they're all located at least within a 3-kilometer radius from your site. So this is an excellent location for a office building. So going back here, that's your market or service area. And then the next factor here is the political environment. So it's not really explained in the text, but in the morning class, I showed them you can infer this as what is the because politics as the verb and political, the noun, or politics. Let's see here. Sorry. I'll just show it on Google. So politicking. Politicking, the adjective is the action or process, or like what do you call this? It's like what we think of politicians, that they're doing something for the sake of their own benefit, but the actual meaning of politics is some activities associated with the governance of country, especially debate or conflict, blah blah blah. But it's really more about like in urban planning and like site planning. Political environment means like how will the culture of the area, like are the local communities and local governments, are they critical of your development? So this is not such a architectural issue. I can illustrate it further with a big development in Sydney. This is Barangaroo, Sydney. It's a 22-hectare development. Basically, they reused a old industrial area, and now it's a commercial residential area with also I think a decently sized park, like so. So the total length of this area here, I'll just turn off the buildings, so you can see it's about 1.10 kilometers in length, about 1,000 meters in length, and then in width, it's about 100 or 200. There we go. About 200 meters in width. So it's a very narrow site. Now, for a business district, this seems like an appropriate site. You see, it's like right next to the CBD. So the CBD of Australia, or like not Australia, but Sydney, is very easily determined by looking at their building height. So over here, these are all the banks, the insurance companies, the offices are all here. And Barangaroo, customize, okay, green, is over here. Oops. So there we go. Very ideal location for a commercial and residential district. Now, the first version of Barangaroo, I can just like look it up here. Modification 1. Now, in a very active political environment, local government and local communities are well, very active in conversation. So in developed countries like Sydney, most large developments like mixed-use developments like this, like maybe like anything more than 10 hectares, will need to have a public exhibition, meaning the public should be notified that this thing is being constructed. So the first exhibition of this project, let me just show you the total scope of Barangaroo development. can see the changes here. Like so. Okay. Let me see response to submissions. Basically, I want to see some drawings. Where are the drawings? Anyway, images like this. I think this is the best one. So I think I showed you this before. Now, Barangaroo is a mixed-use development. On the right side here, there's more of the southern side of the site. You see International Tower, Sydney. So let me open it, new tabs, not HD for some reason. Anyway, I really don't know why it's not HD. Let's see, let's look for an HD plan. I think this one would be better. Ah, here we go. It's also not. Sorry. Let me find another image here. I guess we'll just look at the plan then. Okay. Okay. This is a good image. And where is the site plan? That's another good image. For some reason the site plan is gone. Okay. Like so. So you see these buildings in red. These are office buildings. Below them are residential apartments and also commercial spaces. So everything in red, offices. In sort of orange, that's mixed use, like commercial and residential. So retail spaces and like apartments. And over here are mid-rise apartment buildings. And then to the left is like a large park. Originally, the city proposed, since it's a combination, it's a public-private partnership or like a similar equivalent, the city proposed that over 70% should be, what do you call this? Open space or parks. But the developer sort of negotiated to increase the amount of like commercial development because they wanted more profits, which makes sense. And then over here, where did I put it? Modifications. Let me open that. Anyway, so this was sort of the proposal here. And then let me see. They don't have a before and after, unfortunately. But anyway, supposedly, and the beginning, I'll just show it here. The first version of the plan, these buildings were not here. These were new. So if you can see over here, infrastructure and services statement, that the buildings only reached up until here, like basically halfway of the park, halfway of the development. And then they decided, the developer sort of made a deal with the government, and then they decided that they would add even more residential structures, like so, over here. And you see that even the designs of the buildings are different. This is probably one of the earlier proposals. So they don't have the design of the building yet. Notice how it looks like today. See, zoom in. So it has more of a circular shape, and it's just 3 towers. Before they even had kanang, let's see here. They had more towers. So you can see that. So with this sort of a very active political environment, it means that you don't want to select a site where there will be a lot of kanang pushback or like complaints from both the government and the public. Because if you work for a large developer, let's say you're the head of this developing company and you locate a site that's in a very kanang precious or kanang culturally valuable area, you wouldn't want to put a big development there because like local community and local government might push back against your plans, and it will delay your plans and will cost you money. But anyway, that's more for like urban planning or like large scale projects. For our proposal of a 5-story office building, I don't think there will be much kanang outrage or controversy for such a small building. So just wanted to share this with you because we're talking about urban and regional planning. This is why you see a lot of like news articles about like, is this kanang in the Philippines? I think one of the biggest stories will be the CCLEX. CCLEX. So usually we have a lot of kanang news. Is the Mostly it's positive for CCLEX. Like with this, you will see like some news like early on, maybe like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that is this the correct location for this bridge? In Manila, there's the new Pasig Bridge, I think, Pasig Bridge project. Bridge project. Now this one has a lot of environmental planners sort of in the Philippines, kind of, I guess a good way to say would be concerned, because it's a lot of bridge and it's over the Pasig River. Let's see, Pasig Bridge project. Where was that? Not necessarily this one. I forgot the name. Let's see, new highway in Manila. I will say Manila. I think this is it. Okay, Manila Skyway. I think something like that. Build, blah, blah, blah. So just take a quick look here. My tabs are going crazy. I'm not sure if it was NLEX, EDSA, or SX. There's so many. But anyway, for these types of infrastructure projects, you see how this highway is going over a lot of like residential areas and commercial areas. There basically wasn't a lot of kanang, what's going on with the internet? Okay. Is my power still working? Okay. There wasn't a lot of kanang back and forth between the public, even though this was a public-private partnership. And a lot of the Philippine environmental planners, or basically the equivalent of urban planners in the Philippines, are asking for kind of more transparency. But as usual, you know, data is very limited. So it's these kinds of things in larger projects, because they have such a large impact. Hopefully, in the Philippines, we'll have more kind of transparent developments. But that's just something really out of our hands. But the most we can do is just be aware of these things and try to participate when we can. So something like that. But anyway, for architectural projects, this isn't such a big deal. So we just focus on the next item here, which is hazards. So basically, after going through all of those like items, and close this here, we ended up with something like this. Now, site is the size of the site isn't something that you need to talk about, because we already talked about it last time, where all of the sites are basically between 1,000 and 2,000 square meters. You can just identify their like size of site fits the requirement of like being 1,000 to 2,000 square meters. Let's see here. Access would be something that we didn't talk about last time. So in your strengths and weaknesses, most people just say traffic, noise, but nobody was talking about access to water supply, sewage lines, power lines, telecommunications, etc. So to make things easier, because we don't have access to these maps in the Philippines, or maybe you do, like depending on where you are, you can just say proximity to road right-of-way. So if your site is located near a road right-of-way, that already gives it access to not just transportation, but also utilities. And another big hazard that's unique to the Philippines, whether you're in Cebu, Manila, or Davao, is the vulnerability to flooding, landslides, and storm surge. So with this, you can very easily use the NOAA website. So let me just close. NOAA. Here we go. I close my YouTube tab here. So you can use this. I think we shared this before. So please use this. And then anywhere, Cebu, Manila, I think for the most part, anywhere there's like decent development, you can find out what's going on in your site. So for example, Cebu City lang. And let's look at IT Park. So where is IT Park? Let's see, that's Fuente Osmeña Circle. Sayala over there. IT Park is over here. So I'll just highlight it with my brush. Okay, so this is, I think IT Park's about this size here, maybe including that as well. that. And like that. Okay, maybe I'll just erase that. Okay, so that's IT Park. And notice it has no color. So what are the different hazards that's monitored by the nationwide operational assessment of hazards? Sorry, my voice is dying. Flood hazard levels. If you click this, nothing. It's all white, little to none. There's almost my throat. There's almost no issues with flooding in this area. There's no risk of landslide because there's no land to slide. It's all flat land. And then storm surge hazard level is minimal. So what is storm surge? A storm surge is a tsunami-like phenomenon of rising water resulting from typhoons. So this only applies to coastal areas. So IT Parks very much inland, so there's no risk of storm surge. So if some of you may have located your sites here in SRP, for example, unfortunately, this area is very vulnerable to storm surge. There has been no flooding yet, but probably because there's no one living here yet. So you don't see a lot of like people complaining about the flooding. Or maybe they just have really good kanang wastewater or like storm surge facilities like drainage, rain, kanang, not really rainwater, but detention basins. Basically a way to store a lot of water really fast so it doesn't flood the area. Like let's see what are the other issues here in SRP. So flood levels. So you have, let's see here, big red areas here, yellow and orange is kanang is something that you should preferably not build on. In red, definitely you don't build on that. In red is that these areas are very kanang prone to flooding. Sorry. The next issue that you might want to look at, landslide. No issues of landslide in SRP because there's no mountains. So most of the landslide vulnerable areas are here in the mountainous areas, like so. So if your site is in the sort of a mountainous area, so you might be prone to landslides. And then finally, storm surge. Okay, that's already talked about it. So for the weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses, I'd like you to consider flood hazards, landslides, and storm surge hazards. So you have a more sort of a complete exploration of like or analysis of your site. Market area, we talked about it. So think about is your location in an area that supports the growth of an office building? Are your customers, employees, managers within a 2-kilometer radius? So I just like to use a 2-kilometer radius because that's what they taught us in Sydney. It's not really kind of definite. It must be 2 kilometers. You just need to like zoom in, zoom out, like maybe between 2 kilometers to like 5 kilometers, something like that. And then the political environment refers to how active is the dialogue between local communities and local government. So does the local government allow for communities to make modifications to construction? So this is only for large projects over 20 hectares. Large projects over 20 hectares. I'll just like do that. HA. Okay. So with that, for your presentation, you basically eliminated the size, land use regulations such as building code. You're already familiar with that, so you don't need to repeat it. Although you can add a bit of text, but you don't need to expound. But the minimum site selection criteria, this is the one that you must show, is access to transport, access to, wait, this is supposed to be accessibility. Accessibility. How easy it is to get to your site, transport, like what kinds of is it like what's the word I'm looking for? Delivery trucks reach your site for your building materials, for the ingredients for your food, etc., etc. And then utilities, your water supply, sewage lines, power lines, and telecommunication lines. So another advantage to building in what do you call this? Business districts. The internet services is a lot better than if you build somewhere like more rural, more kanang out of the way or kanang sudlunon na area. You'll have a problem with internet. So businesses can't survive these days without internet. So that may be a big kanang what do you call this? Contributor to your site selection criteria. And of course, hazards, as we discussed, flooding, landslide, storm surge, And finally, the market area. So is your site located nearby or within a 2 to 3 kilometer radius? Let's say 2 to 5 lang, so you have more options of like your customers, your employees, and managers, like the people who will use your building. So over here, I have a sample grading scale. This is also provided in the book. So if you go over here, I'll scroll down a bit. So we basically determine the site selection criteria and then grading. Let's see. Identify potential sites, we already did that. Evaluate each site suitability. And they have it over here on page 57. So you see, you can use a scale with 3 classes or a scale with 5 classes. That's the advised number of classes you need, or like scores. So you might do a rating scale with 3 classes. So +1 for favorable, 0 for neutral, and 1 for unfavorable. So I have some I'll just highlight it in red. Distances here. So for example, I'm measuring kanang distance to kanang users or market area, as I wrote over there at the top. So for example, if I'm looking at grading access to market area or just kanang market area in general, this is how I would do it. So for example, if I use a 3 class scale, or basically a 3-point scale, I would score +1 if the site is located within a 1 to 3 kilometer radius of like residential areas that would have like houses for managers, employees, and like other users. 0 points for it being like beyond 3 kilometers, and a -1 point here. Sorry, there's supposed to be a minus there. -1 point if it's like further than 5 kilometers. So another way of doing it would be with 5 classes. So excellent would be 1 to 2 kilometers, good would be 2 to 3, etc., etc. And then you put it all together. So you have your site A, B, C, and some of you might even go to D. And then you score each of your sites. So for example, site A, looking at accessibility, transport, hazards, market area, it might get like 12 points. Site B might get 9 points. Site C might get 2.5 points. So this way, what do you call this? Bias is eliminated, and you're basically choosing a site based on your a very kanang rational or scientific way of assigning points to your objective. So it's more kanang objective based na site selection, and not more kanang I just like the site because I'm familiar with it. So basically, the site selection process eliminates kanang bias and helps you create a more kanang data-driven or informative informed decision when you choose your site. So this is for me a very important skill, not just like for professional practice, but just like as a designer in general, because this is applied not just to architectural buildings, but also like large urban planning projects like subdivisions, as you saw earlier, Barangaroo, mixed-use developments with open parks. So this is really kanang something I want you guys to practice starting now, and hopefully you get even better with it as you go to like 5th year and you practice professionally. Okay, so with that, this is basically a sample output for your December 1 submission. So each of you will probably have a page like this. You can have more than 1 page, but please keep everything under 5 pages, because what you will do on December 1, that's next Thursday, is just present your findings. Over here, where's the module? Here. So it will be a 5-minute presentation with a 5-minute Q&A after. So it's 10 minutes per group. There's like 10 groups here, so that's like 60 minutes. So we have time to like really discuss, and like also have time for like instructions, revisions, etc. Okay, so it's 5:25. Let's see. Are there any questions about the assignment here? So this one, draw the site selection diagram. Just draw it. Paper, pen. You can draw it digitally, but I don't know why. As long as you don't screenshot it, I'm happy. And then yeah, next sort of what do you call this? Next Tuesday, we'll discuss the sort of the government side of it. More kind of regional and urban planning sort of topics. which may not directly kanang be relevant for your final project, but it's still good to know. You might think of something like a new criteria na we didn't discuss. But for me, the minimum criteria is just really kanang the accessibility, hazards, and market area. You can add more. This is just my minimum. So I'll just highlight it even more, red. Minimum, meaning you can add more criteria if needed. Let me just make that unbold. It says accessibility. Okay. Market area, supposed to be minus here, and site within my expectation. Sige. So with that, are there any questions?